Welcome to A Year of War and Peace. I'm your host, Brian E. Denton. A Year of War and Peace is a daily, year-long, chapter-by-chapter reading of and meditation on Leo Tolstoy's epic novel, War and Peace. In these videos and podcasts, you'll be treated to a free reading of one chapter per day of the novel, plus a reflective essay I've written individually tailored to that day's chapter. These readings are offered for free, though if you'd like to support me, you can do so in one of three ways. First, you could purchase my ebook, A Year of War and Peace. It features the entire novel, plus all of my reflective essays, and it's only $2.99 on Amazon.com. You could also become a patron at patreon.com/BrianEDenton. If you sign up there, you'll receive a sonnet once a month, plus a link to an ebook of my collected sonnets. Finally, if you like, you can make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. The email there is brianedenton@gmail.com. You can also use that email to contact me. I'd be happy to hear from you. Your support is greatly appreciated. Today's reading and reflection is on Chapter 189. Chapter 189. When Michael Ivanovich returned to the study with the letter, the old prince, with spectacles on and a shade over his eyes, was sitting at his open bureau with screened candles, holding a paper in his outstretched hand, and in a somewhat dramatic attitude was reading his manuscript, his remarks, as he termed it, which was to be transmitted to the emperor after his death. When Michael Ivanovich went in there, were tears in the prince's eyes, evoked by the memory of the time when the paper he was now reading had been written. He took the letter from Michael Ivanovich's hand, put it in his pocket, folded up the papers, and called in Alpatych, who had long been waiting. The prince had a list of things to be bought in Smolensk, and, walking up and down the room past Alpatych, who stood by the door, he gave his instructions. First, notepaper. Do you hear? 8 quires, like the sample, gilt-edged. It must be exactly like the sample. Varnish, sealing wax, as in Michael Ivanovich's list. He paced up and down for a while and glanced at his notes. Then, hand to the governor in person a letter about the deed. Next, bolts for the doors of the new building were wanted, and had to be of special shape the prince himself had designed, and a leather case had to be ordered to keep his will in. The instructions to Alpatych took over 2 hours, and still the prince did not let him go. He sat down, sank into thought, closed his eyes, and dozed off. Alpatych made a slight movement. Well, go. If anything more is wanted, I'll send after you. Alpatych went out. The prince again went to his bureau, glanced into it, fingered his papers, closed the bureau again, and sat down at the table to write to the governor. It was already late when he rose after sealing the letter. He wished to sleep, but he knew he would not be able to, and that most depressing thoughts came to him in bed. So he called Tikhon, and went through the rooms with him to show him where to set up the bed for the night. He went about looking at every corner. Every place seemed unsatisfactory, but worst of all was his customary couch in the study. That couch was dreadful to him, because of the oppressive thoughts he had when lying there. It was unsatisfactory everywhere, but the corner behind the piano in the sitting room was better than other places. He had never slept there yet. With the help of a footman, Tikhon brought in the bedstead and began putting it up. That's not right, cried the prince, and himself pushed it a few inches from the corner and then closer in again. Well, at last I've finished. Now I'll rest, thought the prince, and let Tikhon undress him. Frowning with vexation at the effort necessary to divest himself of his coat and trousers, the prince undressed, sat down heavily on the bed, and appeared to be meditating as he looked contemptuously at his withered yellow legs. He was not meditating, but only deferring the moment of making the effort to lift those legs up and turn over the bed. Ugh, how hard it is. Oh, that this toil might end, and you would release me, thought he. Pressing his lips together, he made that effort for the 20,000th time, and lay down. But hardly had he done so before he felt the bed rocking backwards and forwards beneath him, as if it were breathing heavily and jolting. This happened to him almost every night. He opened his eyes as if they were closing. No peace, damn them, he muttered, angry, he knew not whom for. Ah, yes, there was something else important, very important, that I was keeping till I should be in bed. The bolts? No, I told them about it. No, it was something in the drawing room. Princess Mary talked some nonsense. Dessau, that fool, said something in my pocket, I can't remember. Tikhon, what did we talk about at dinner? About Prince Michael. Be quiet, quiet. The prince slapped his hand on the table. Yes, I know. Prince Andrew's letter. Princess Mary read it. Dessau said something about Vitebsk. Now I'll read it. He had the letter taken from his pocket in the table, on which stood a glass of lemonade and a spiral wax candle, moved close to the bed, and putting on his spectacles, he began reading. Only now, in the stillness of night, reading it by the faint light under the green shade, did he grasp its meaning for a moment. The French at Vitebsk. In 4 days' march they may be at Smolensk. Perhaps they're already there. Tikhon! Tikhon jumped up. No, I don't want anything, he shouted. He put the letter under the candlestick and closed his eyes, and there rose before him the Danube, at bright noonday, reeds, the Russian camp, and himself, a young general without a wrinkle on his ruddy face, vigorous and alert, entering Potemkin's gaily colored tent, and a burning sense of jealousy of the favorite agitated him now, as strongly as it had done then. He recalled all the words spoken at that first meeting with Potemkin, and he saw before him a plump, rather sallow-faced, short, stout woman, the Empress Mother, with her smile and her words at her first gracious reception of him. And then that same face on the catafalque, and the encounter he had with Zubov over her coffin, about his right to kiss her hand. Oh, quicker, quicker, to get back to that time, and have done with all the present. Quicker, quicker, and that they should leave me in peace. All right, that concludes my reading of chapter 189. I will now proceed to my reflection on the same. A Year of War and Peace, day 189. Out of Luck in La Belle Epoque. Nostalgia is denial, says Paul, the semi-antagonist of Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris, in reference to his rival, Gil Pender, the film's hero. Denial of a painful present, Paul continues. The name for this denial is Golden Age thinking, the erroneous notion that a different time period is better than the one is living in. It's a flaw in the romantic imagination of those people who find it difficult to cope with the present. It's hard to argue against Paul's diagnosis. The source of Gil's chronic dissatisfaction, it wouldn't be a Woody Allen film without chronic dissatisfaction, is his constant hankering after and longing for life in 1920s Paris. But when Gil is magically swept away into 1920s Paris, his romantic dreams are crushed when he learns that his love interest suffers from her own nostalgic preference for La Belle Epoque. This leads Gil to the realization that the only way to be happy is to abandon his impossible dreams, his nostalgia for past eras being one of them. Time is running out for old Prince Bolkonsky to come to the same understanding. In today's chapter, we see that he suffers from a special species of Golden Age thinking, the yearning for a return to lost youth. In what is surely one of the book's more moving passages, he reflects on his days as a young man in the army. Quote, he put the letter under the candlestick and closed his eyes, and there rose before him the Danube at bright noonday, reeds, the Russian camp, and himself a young general without a wrinkle on his ruddy face, vigorous and alert, entering Potemkin's gaily colored tent, and a burning sense of jealousy of the favorite agitating him now, as strongly as it had done then. He recalled all the words spoken at that first meeting with Potemkin, and he saw before him a plump, rather sallow-faced, short, stout woman, the Empress Mother, with her smile and her words, at her first gracious reception of him, and then the same face on the catafalque, and the encounter he had with Zubov over her coffin about his right to kiss her hand. End quote. The impossible repentancy he has for his past hurts the old prince. Twice in the chapter he begs death to release him from his old age misery. He has yet to learn and apply the central Stoic insight that, so far as we are able, we ought only concern ourselves with what is under our control. Aging is not under our control. The ability to live well in old age, however, is under our control. The old prince can join Gil Pender in abandoning chronic dissatisfaction if he wants to, but he needs to hurry. Time is running out. Daily meditation. We must make haste then, not only because we are daily nearer to death, but also because the conception of things and the understanding of them cease first. Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. All right, that concludes my reading of and reflection on chapter 189. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for listening with me. If you want to support me, you can do so either by purchasing the ebook, A Year of War and Peace, becoming a patron at patreon.com, or making a one-time donation at PayPal. The links to all that are down below in the show notes. Tomorrow, we will be reading and reflecting on chapter 190 of War and Peace. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourselves and others.